Welcome to another edition of the Durham Bulls podcast, which is where our Bulls fans know to go. Every Monday, we celebrate a new player, a new manager, a new member that makes the Durham Bulls the global tradition and brand that they are. Patrick Kinas, broadcaster for the Bulls, glad to be back with you. If it's your first time joining the podcast, we thank you. You can subscribe and never miss an episode on Apple and on Spotify. And you can watch this video podcast in video form on our YouTube channel at Durham Bulls TV. Well, we had some incredible guests over the first 5 or 6 months of this podcast. Got some big name guests on the way. Andrew Jones will join us here in a couple of weeks. Jim Morris, the rookie, was on a few weeks ago. Charlie Montoya, Bill Evers, Miles Masterbone, you name it. A long, long list of outstanding reps of the Durham Bulls. And today we bring in a new player to the organization here in 2024 who has become a big fan favorite in his 3.5 months playing in Durham. But we've seen him play in this league for a couple of years. It is shortstop and Texas Longhorn, CJ Hinojosa. CJ, thanks for your time. How you doing, my man?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
First off, let's just talk about your experience so far in Durham. You played for Jacksonville last year. You knew kind of from the periphery what it was like playing in Durham and the Durham Bulls Athletic Park and the movie that surrounds, the brand that is Durham. Now that you've experienced it for the last 3.5 months, what's your experience been like?
It's been awesome. I was fortunate enough to come out to Raleigh and Durham whenever I was in high school or actually Cary for the USA stuff and the stuff that we got to do. So I remember last year whenever I got to visit and play here, my host family from all those years back actually came out and got to visit. They had kids, everybody was out and graduated now. So me coming back has been really, really nice. My family's here with me in Durham, so it makes it way easier than having them back at home in Willis, Texas. But we've loved every second of it. It's a beautiful ballpark. It has some of the best fans that I've been able to play in front of in the last 4 years of AAA baseball and minor league baseball, just with all the stories and everything that comes with playing for the Durham Bulls. And, we've really enjoyed it.
You have a unique framing about that because of your time with the under 14s, the under 16s, and the collegiate U.S. national team. But it's been 14, 15 years since your first trip to the Triangle with the under 14s. Does it seem like a lifetime away because you were a young teenager then? Now you're a grown man with kids and a wife and a pro baseball career. What's that feel like?
Yeah, it is. It does feel like sometimes it doesn't even feel like it ever happened. It's been so long, but no, it's been really, really awesome. I look back on it on some days and I look up into the stands and I look at the wall and it's like, man, I remember playing here whenever I was 16, 17 years old. And it's kind of been surreal. I haven't had a debut yet, but it's like every day that I show up to the park, and you play every day, it's like this is my big leagues. This is what I show up to do. And that's what's really nice about having such a crazy good fan support that comes out and supports us, and we have such a nice stadium. I mean, nowadays AAA ballparks are starting to turn towards them being a lot nicer than they used to be. So it's like, hey, I'm just taking it all in and enjoying it while I can.
I'm glad you mentioned your host family because this is something we haven't talked about with anybody on the pod so far, but your perspective is very unique. And you and I have had some offline conversations about kind of your personal relationships with fans and with special employees and special people within organizations over the years. First off, for people who may not know what a host family and their responsibilities are when you're with a travel team, explain that. But then more broadly, your connections with people beyond your teammates, beyond your managers and coaching staff, people within the organization who you stay in very, very close touch with.
So I remember I think 16 years old, and it was the Tournament of Stars. We get sent out to Cary, North Carolina, and it's just a bunch of guys. I mean, I think there was 8 or 9 teams, and we're all taken to this high school. Nobody, I mean, your buddies and stuff that you've seen in the circuit. I had a buddy, Austin Dean, who we would travel together with, and we went to high school together. But I remember we were put into a high school gym, and we have no idea who is going to pick us up. And we're like, I remember he and I we were like, yeah, we're gonna be together. We're gonna be roommates. And I think he got picked up first and was just picked up by a random family. And I waited another 20 minutes and then I got picked up. But no, I mean, they've been awesome. So what they end up doing is they took us in. There was two of us in my living situation.
Mhm.
And they took us in as if we were one of theirs. We got to do family events for their stuff. I remember going to a few softball games. We'd go family bowling. But we became their kids essentially
Yeah.
for the summer of that week or 2 week stint that we had there. Um, we would hang out. They would take us to the games. They would,
Yeah.
I mean, they would feed us. It was awesome. It
Yeah.
was a great experience. And I mean, you kind of take it for granted at the time, just because you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that it's summer and you're just running on the circuit back then. But you look back at it and it's like, man, those families were really, really
Mm,
nice to
mm,
take us in and allow us, and they love baseball. And it's been really nice
yeah.
that, after all these years, I mean, I think I'll be 30 this year, so we're pushing
Yeah.
14 years ago,
Yeah.
um, that we could still stay in touch now.
Well, I mean, how hard was it? Because you grew up in Spring, Texas, right around the Houston area. I'm guessing this was your first probably major time away from home. And again, at this stage, you're 14, maybe 15 years of age. You can't drive, you can't drink. There's nothing that you can do. So you really have to be welcome, and your parents have to trust this family with their young teenage son 7 states
Yeah.
away, right?
Right, right. I was fortunate enough. I got to start traveling whenever I was around 11 and
Okay.
12, and that's whenever the travel circuit for us really began. So I had already been traveling a little bit, but yes, absolutely. For my mom to let me go somewhere and stay with a family that she had never met, I could only imagine now that I have kids how she let me go.
Yeah.
But we had this dream of
Mm,
doing whatever we had to do to get a scholarship. I mean, that was
yeah.
that was the thought process at that time, and she knew that I had to, leave the nest so that I could
Mm,
try to accomplish the things that was out there to accomplish. And fortunate enough, I
mhm.
was I was able to do a lot of that coming up in my youth circuit.
You and I have talked a little bit about parents, and tell me about your mom, Rose, because from what I can gather, she is outside of your wife and your kids the most important North Star in your life.
Yeah. Wow. Where do we begin? My mom is, I mean, she's my rock. She's always been there for me. She's helped me. She's helped me with a lot of things as far as really understanding that you can go and get anything that you want. It just takes time. It takes um, like you have to plot it out. You can't just expect to wake up one day and to have everything that you want. So she would tell me a lot like failure is not an option. Um, so how do you combat that? It's like if failure isn't an option and failure happens a lot, it was like how do I allow myself to fail but not fail? And that's where um she really kind of taught me just throughout life that you are going to get kicked down, but like failure isn't until you quit. When you quit, that isn't an option.
Mhm.
So um yeah, she's my rock.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you're in an industry, you're in a business where failure is such a high rate. Yet success can be born from all the failure just because that's just the nature of the game. So how do you synchronize that in your head knowing that you're playing a game where you're failing 70 times out of 100, 75 times out of 100, but that can still be viewed as a success.
Yeah, I mean this game is crazy. It's hard. You gotta learn how to compartmentalize
Mhm.
everything. So for me, like offense is one thing. When I get into the dugout, it's like that's one person, and then on defense,
Mhm.
you got to have a whole nother person. And while you're on the bases, you got to be a whole nother person. And it's like, if you can separate those people, then you can help yourself be
Mm,
successful.
mm,
It's not going to be every day that you get a hit. So that's kind of hard to show up and you work and you watch video and you pick apart the pitcher or your scouting report. It's tough whenever you go up to the plate three
mhm.
or four times and you don't have a successful
Yeah,
at bat.
yeah.
But you can always work a walk. You can always hit the ball hard. Like smaller things that you can control allow for your mind to be at ease and for
Mm,
you to have more success. Defensively, it's like I expect myself to make every play, even the tough ones, because
mhm.
again, you are there to prep, you are there to do everything it is that you need to be successful, and that's one of the more controllable aspects is defense. So as long as you can separate those two guys,
Mhm.
I feel like your what is it? Your not value, but like the value of being on top of the negativity mentally is a whole lot easier
Hmm.
whenever you can compartmentalize those two people or three people
So,
and being on the
I
basis.
mean, it sounds like some type of sports license, schizophrenia, right? I mean,
Right.
I mean, how many different people are inside CJ in this
Yeah.
baseball world?
Right, right. But that's the only way that you can separate and like
Yeah,
you check back in. So like whenever you leave the dugout, it's time to leave that guy
yeah,
in the
yeah,
dugout. And like he'll get his time. Like he don't forget about him. You're not gonna forget on you gotta make three outs first and then you can come back and like figure out how that guy got me
yeah,
out or
yeah,
what I did wrong. Did I chase? Was that my timing off? But like
yeah,
you can't expect yourself to be present out there defensively if
yeah,
you're still thinking about the offensive guy.
yeah. Was there a coach who gave you this philosophy? Where did you learn it from? Was it a teammate? Was it a coach or somebody else?
I think it's everybody. The game. It's just
Mm,
learning, being a student of the game, figuring out. I've been fortunate enough to be around some really good baseball minds throughout my
mhm,
career. Um, I feel like it's kind of been a I would I, I feel like I would be lying if I said it was just one person. It's kind of been
mhm,
a lot. It's been everybody that I've kind of crossed paths with, just kind of whether it be a player, whether it be a coach. You learn different things from different people, and just
mhm.
it's not always roses at the end of an at bat. It's not
Yeah,
always going to be positive. So it's like
mhm.
how can I find my way back to being positive again?
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned your friend Austin Dean, who played in high school with you, teammates at Klein Collins High School. Um, you had a phenomenal high school program, and
Yeah.
did you overlap with Tyler Naquin as well? Was he there one of your years because he
Yeah,
came out of
he
that
was a
program?
he was a senior whenever I was a freshman.
I mean, that's three major leaguers from the same high school within what 4 years of the draft?
Yeah, there was quite a few. We had Austin DeSherry,
Okay.
Sam Stafford, who ended up both of those guys ended up being guys that went to the University of Texas also.
Hmm.
Aaron Schultz from TCU. There
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there it was a newer school,
yeah.
and baseball. It was called the Klein Collins University. So that was kind of like our little joke inside, but it was something, and I mean they're still doing well now.
Yeah. What growing up was UT the dream school for you? I know that's where
I
you
th-
went, but I mean, were you a big Longhorn fan growing up when you were 5, 6, 8 years old, and that was the spot to go for the burnt orange, the white, and play for such a storied program?
Absolutely. I mean that's what my dad had kind of envisioned for me since I was a kid, and you know, but then it came that Augie was there, and with
Yeah,
Augie
yeah,
being there
yeah.
and learning about the history of Augie, I was like, man, this guy's
Mm,
this guy's intense. And then I got to meet Augie, and I remember walking out, and I was like, that is the only guy I want to play
mm,
college for. And I got to do that. I got to check that off my bucket list. and it was something. It was awesome. Me and Augie, we saw each other, eye to eye, and we had a really good relationship, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah. Now, CJ, when you came out of high school, you were one of the top high school players in the country. So you literally could have gone anywhere, knowing that you wanted to go to Texas and play for Augie Garrido, the legendary head baseball coach then with the Longhorns. When he finally said you want to come to Austin and play for the Longhorns, what did that feel like for you?
Um, I knew I wasn't done. I was excited, but I think at that time in my life, like it was more of like, all right, I was so hungry for the next thing because I knew what was out there, that I was like, all right, now what do I got to do to be drafted? What do I have to
Mhm.
do to be the
Mhm.
best player there, or the best player around? And I already had that mindset, but it was just more of, all right, like I did it, good job, but like we got to keep going.
So when you got to Austin, looking back across your history, you started every game in your 3 years, except for one. Basically
What?
started every game of your career. I don't even need to know why you didn't start that one game, but you started basically every game but one. And in reading some pieces, uh, articles about you, Augie Garrido called you an old baseball soul. So when you hear that, or when he said that, then what does that mean?
I think, I mean, I have always had a niche of picking up small things, I guess, and trying to learn from either my mistakes or learn from the mistakes that another team makes. But like being in the right places at the right time whenever things aren't really called for you being there. Um, Kind of understanding the game. I feel like the game has gotten so far away from the way that it was used to be played, and especially the way that we were taught, which was West Coast baseball. West Coast baseball, small ball,
Mhm.
defense. You gotta play defense. If you don't play defense, you can't win.
Mhm.
You can't win. What do they say? Offense wins games. Pitching uh, wins tournaments, and defense
Yeah.
wins
Mhm.
championships, or
Mhm.
something along those lines. Like
Mhm.
we were taught, like if we can't get 27 outs, we're gonna have a big problem. Small ball, being able to move guys, whether it's hitting, bunting. I mean, it's kind of the way that we were taught the game was, it's art. It's a piece of art, and with that piece of art, you have to be able to do different things with your
Mhm.
game. And I think that's might have been what he was kind of going for, whenever he said that. But I mean, again, it's those memories and that
Mhm.
relationship. Uh, I mean, I'll cherish forever.
Yeah, how meaningful, especially now, knowing he passed away a few years ago, how meaningful is it for you and your teammates to know that you got him to Omaha in 2014 for one of the final times in his legendary career?
I mean, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
awesome. I was there whenever he got his boots, after breaking one of the records for the wins. It was. I mean, I don't think we really understood what we were accomplishing with him at the time, just because we were all so steadfast in trying to win that tournament and get to Omaha.
Mhm.
But yeah, now that we look back at it, it's like he had he had one of the most storied coaching careers in all of college baseball. So for us to be a part of it at all, um, it was a blessing. I've gotten, I think, four, maybe three or four different phones since the time that I've been drafted, and I still have his text messages to make sure that
Oh,
those messages are never deleted. So,
oh.
um, kind of, I mean, I feel like now that we look back at it,
Mhm.
um, it was awesome. It was
Mhm.
it was an experience, and
Yeah.
man, to go back and do it again. I mean,
Mhm.
I love where I'm at in my life, but that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd definitely be one of the places that I'd click the rewind button. It was that week
Yeah.
in Omaha.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, can you share maybe one of those text messages that you will never delete from
Oh
Coach
yeah.
Augie Garrido? Like, well, what was the circumstance behind it? What did he tell you?
It was actually on his birthday in 2018.
Hmm.
Happy birthday, Og. Hope it's the best one so far. Miss you and hope all is well. And he told me that it was a wonderful surprise to hear from me. Thank you for my B-Day shout out. Hope you're doing well. Your text made my day. Love you. So we had a really good relationship to where there was times that I would be able to come into his office and we'd just sit there and talk. Like we'd literally just talk baseball, talk how things went. We'd be able to go and grab something to eat. He'd take me to his favorite spots in Austin. So yeah, it was everything that I ever envisioned for me going to school.
What was that the last text that you shared? Because he passed away a couple months later, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What a special moment. And he's right. I mean, baseball is an art, and you are an old soul here at AAA. And what's interesting to me is I've been around this game for 30 years now, and AAA for 12. AAA has changed a lot, and especially the development of players, the ability to understand the nuance of games, moving runners over, base running, defense, throwing to the right bases. It's very, very different. It's very much younger now, and it's not played like the art that you probably grew up understanding that the game was. So how do you reconcile the way that AAA is now versus what Augie and everybody else taught you about the importance of those small kind of intangible parts of the game growing up?
I mean, I think defense is still very important. Learning, teaching, figuring out where to be. And I mean, it's kind of become a little bit easier defensively because they have computers that tell you, and the scouting reports that tell you where this guy's going to hit. Like the chances of him hitting the ball one step more over is, 20% higher than it is whenever you're one step more up the middle. That has become almost like a cheat sheet for us. So that helps us a lot. Offensively, I wouldn't say it's completely changed. I mean, you still see, you have your speed guys, you have your guys that will hit for base hits. I just think that the overall, I guess, what's the word? The overall necessity, need for all these teams is OPS now. And the OPS it's no different. You're still getting on base. It's just, are you getting that extra base hit? Are you going to be a guy who walks on top of getting extra base hit? So I just think that in terms of the way the game was taught to me and what it's become now, it hasn't really, it's not too different. It's just, it's become more, and I hate saying analytic driven, but it's just become more advanced in what we want. It's just kind of like, for me, I guess, it's kind of like the human race. You look back in 1900 and you look at Durham and you look at Durham now, it hasn't changed a whole lot, but the wants of the people in Durham, those things have changed. Life still goes on. We still breathe the same air. We still eat around the same food. It's just the value of wanting, nicer buildings, or, you're on campus now with Duke. So like, it's a lot more student driven than it was probably back in the 1900s. So it's like the game is still the game. You're still trying to win. You still have to move guys over. It's just the stuff that is, I guess, valued has just changed a little bit more.
You mentioned the analytics, and I love the term, the cheat sheet for like positioning versus what a pitcher throws and what batter's up and where he's likely to hit it, and all of the advancements. Is it for the better though? I mean, you being again on that phrase, old soul. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. I grew up loving the Cubs, loving double switches, loving pitchers batting, getting bunts down. There are a lot more strategy there. That's all gone now from the game. And the analytics side of it, while I get it, feels like it takes away some of the strategy and the romance away from the game. I mean, that's my opinion. Do you think the analytics are making the game better or just different?
I mean, That's a hard question, but analytics have always been there. It's just we finally figured out how to use them. Like they would keep up with if somebody would pull the ball, we'd just move them over. So like I
Yeah.
feel like it's better to have, but it's definitely made the game harder. Like
Mm,
the game has changed so much. Like you no longer can allow yourself to keep making the same mistake because if you do, they're going to find somebody who can fit
mhm,
that same mold and just listen. So it's like, can you be coachable? That I think that's the biggest thing that I've
mhm,
seen over the last 4 or 5 years of my career. Whenever
mhm,
things have been changing, it's
mhm,
like, hey, can you pick up on this new trend? Can you not so much flip your identity, but like, can you pick up and keep the ball moving? And it's kind of like with any other job, or if you change jobs, like at some point there's going to be advancements. And if you aren't willing to keep moving and keep up with the new gen of it, then they're just going to find
mhm,
somebody else and
mhm.
you're out the door. So
Yeah.
how bad do you
Yeah.
want it? And that's kind of the way that I've seen it, is like I have to keep up as long as
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
keep doing this. And whether I go into coaching or whether I,
Mhm,
keep playing, it's like I have to keep up or
mhm.
somebody else is going to figure it out. And if they figure it
Yeah.
out, more than
Yeah.
likely they're just going to replace me and the game just keeps going.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? Like if I was to step down after this year and never play again, like the game's
mhm,
going to keep on going.
mhm,
So, um I don't know if it's better or worse. Um I think we, as a game, to keep continuing to grow it, we just have to continue to allow it to be fun
mhm,
for the fans to watch it.
mhm.
And I mean, I remember flipping the TV on whenever I was a kid and watching the home run derbies and watching these guys hit balls to the moon. And like that was, what is it, Chris Berman, back, gone. I mean, in the summers, that was unbelievable.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I just feel like the game has to be more brought to being able to be seen,
mhm.
and I think we've done a decently good job with making it a little bit quicker. But again, it's some people don't like change,
Mhm.
and it's an old game, and you hate to
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
change at all. But it's like if we're not willing to change those small things, I don't know how long we're gonna
Yeah.
be relevant.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, you look
agree.
at basketball right now, women's basketball has become super relevant. And it's
Mhm.
like, why? Because they've learned how to push it to the younger generation. It's
Yeah.
like that's what we also have to do with baseball. It's like
Yeah.
our game hasn't deteriorated. We have great players and stars. It's just we got to be able to push it more onto the younger kids so that
Mhm,
they can enjoy it because this game is amazing. I mean,
mhm.
there's so much fun and so many things that you can learn just from playing baseball.
I really appreciate your thoughtful and kind of probative answers, Sarah. I want to make sure I ask this question the right way. So you've been playing pro baseball since 2015 when you were drafted by the Giants. You've been playing for about 10 years. You mentioned earlier you turned 30 here in a couple of weeks, and no major league time yet for you. I've been broadcasting minor league baseball for 30 years. No major league time for me either. So I feel we have some type of kinship. Are you are you motivated when you hear stories of Drew Magi getting the big leagues, Winston Bernard getting the big leagues with the Rockies when he's 32 years old? Um, because you haven't been there yet, but you could be there tomorrow.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, you find hope in those guys. Jack Mayfield, another guy signed was a free agent signed out of Oklahoma,
Hmm.
and he made it.
A Cam
There's
Boozer, the guy we saw in Worcester earlier the year. That's one of my favorite
yeah,
stories of the year.
him. There's Jamie Westbrook. I mean, there's
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many
yeah.
guys that have gone through it. It's just, are you willing to quit? And I'm not. Until they tell me, hey, you can't,
Hmm.
we don't need you, or there's a team that says, hey, we need you. Like it's every day here is my big leagues. Like you don't know when that jersey is gonna get taken away
Yeah,
from me. So
yeah,
it's like treat every day as if it's your
yeah.
last. If it happens, it happens. I'd forever be grateful for it, especially
Hmm.
now. I talked to my
Hmm.
wife about it. I was like, you know, the position that we are in, if it does happen, I will cherish it so much more after everything that we had to go
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
or like the path that we would have had to gone through, and being able to do it at an older age. That would be really cool for me because you see guys who do it at a younger age, and nothing
Yeah.
against them who got to do it at a young age. It's just they got to do it at a young age and they don't always get back. And it's like I could I don't know what that path's like. And because I didn't have it, but it was like the path that we're taking, if we do make it and it's, at the last year of my career or the second to last, and who knows, it could
Mhm.
be opened up. You could have a career like JD Martinez and
Yeah, that's right.
play until you're 37, 36, and still dropping nukes for the Mets. You just don't know. It's something can just click
Hmm.
like that. But
Hmm.
um I think me, if it happens and it happens later in my career, in my life, like, hey,
Hmm.
it goes back to what my mom said. Just don't
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah. One other kind of follow-up question before I get to the last question. First off, thanks so much for your time. I'm loving this. Um, I noticed your email address that you sent to me to get ready for this Zoom link is utexas.edu. I know you were a couple of semesters short of graduating when you were drafted. Are you still in school?
I actually just emailed the lady to get back into school this week. So I've got to complete that. I think I had 10 years to get that going again, and I think that's going to be July of 25. So as long as I start before July of 25, I'm good.
This is
So
awesome. This is breaking
yeah,
news here. This is
yeah,
fantastic.
I think I will be re-enrolling to finish my degree
And
here in the next couple of weeks or
what
months.
your pursuit was in what, and how much time, assuming you're still playing, how many more credits are you short? How much time do you think this will take to
I wish
complete?
I know I was studying kinesiology. I wish I knew how many hours I had left. I'm not sure. I got to go back and look. I remember I had it easy. I had a lot of great classes. But I mean, again, kinesiology,
Hmm.
you were able to take electives sometimes, and I took my electives. I think I took my freshman year. I had like piano, so I was in there playing the piano and
Oh,
stuff. It was fun, but
do you like
uh,
playing? Are you a good player?
I don't play anymore.
Okay.
It was that one was a tough one. I managed the A-, but I didn't remember how to play.
All right. So, but as we let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your other rock and your couple of small pebbles in your family.
Yeah,
Your wife and your two children who are basically with you all summer long with Durham. Is that correct?
correct.
T-
Yeah,
t-
they
tell me about your family. They're rock stars when I see them on the field with you.
oh man. So I have two boys, Aiden and Sebastian. Um, Aiden's the oldest. He will be 6 in July. So his birthday's right after mine.
Nice.
And Sebastian will be 5 in November. My wife, Maddie, she's there with us. I mean, where do I go? They go everywhere with me. I always tell them, when people ask, they're my emotional support humans. I mean, they're everything. They love the game. My two little ones.
Yeah.
I try to get them to do other stuff, but it's like bat and ball. Let's go to the ballpark. Um, it's funny because I'll take away the bat and the ball, and if there's a water bottle and anything that can turn into a balled up ball, they will figure out how to play baseball.
Oh.
But no, it's been awesome. I've always dreamed of having a family, and for me to be able to do what I do in baseball and have them around has been phenomenal. My wife, she's outstanding. She helps me more than she could ever imagine mentally. She's actually in school right now studying neuroscience, so she does a lot with the brain, and she's my best friend. She helps me with kind of learning how to compartmentalize everything,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
just constant reminder that like this game, once you're done, it's not going to owe
Hmm.
you anything. Like, we're here
Hmm.
to stay. So
Yeah.
we've been together for a long time, since high school. My senior year, her junior year is whenever we had met. she's been with me through college, and we've kind of just followed this path all the way through to where we've gotten. And I mean, we've had our highs and we've had our lows, but us having a family and being able to be together throughout this career has been something that I always appreciate and love.
I always love hearing the stories, and I've asked this, and I hope you don't mind me asking you this as well, but I've asked Tristan Peters and Ryan Stanek and really almost everybody who's been on the show, Rob Brantley the other day, about how they met their future wife, and the stories are so fun and so cool and so random that I hope you don't mind. So you mentioned you went to the same school together, but what
Yeah.
was the background? I mean, were you in the same circle of friends? How did you guys actually finally get kind of integrated and begin? And did you date throughout without any kind of breakups before you got married? Because that almost never
So
happens.
yeah, no. So this is interesting. So her cousin dated one of my best friends who moved from California but played baseball and lived. They both, the cousin and one of my good friends, they lived literally not across the street, but across the street behind the street. So like there was not the houses in
Mhm.
front, there were the houses on the back. So she states that she has saw me whenever she was, I don't know, 13 or 14. I was already
Yeah.
like a freshman in high school. But then she had transferred to a few different schools, just moving around. And then she made her way to my high school my junior year.
Mhm.
Um, I don't remember where we were. I had saw her like the week before. I don't know. I think she had gotten in trouble, so she was outside of the classroom, and I had walked out and I saw her, and I was like, I don't think I've seen her before. And then there was this morning. I can't remember if I was running late or if I was on time, but we had walked past each other, and we had bumped shoulders. And after we had bumped shoulders, I don't know if she bumped into me or what, but we kind of just locked eyes and we
Mhm.
followed. And then the next thing you know, back then though, it was Facebook. So I
Right.
had messaged her on Facebook after that.
Nice. Nice.
And then a week and a half after, we'd begin talking and exchange
Mm.
numbers and hanging out. But yeah, we started dating there. And just like any high school and college,
Yeah.
there was a few little hiccups. Then once I got drafted, we were not together at the time. And I had torn my Achilles and blew out my knee. We'd been in contact, but we had kind of separated for a little bit and allowed us
Mhm.
to, really understand who we were as our own, because we had already been dating for three
Mm.
3 or 4 years. So we took some time apart, and then I blew out my Achilles, and we had started talking again when I had made it back home after that. So that would have been 20, uh, 2017, 2018, I believe. And then everything
Mm.
started back up,
Mm.
and we ended up getting back together. And then we found out that we were having Aiden, and then after Aiden, we found out we were having Sebastian.
Mm.
But we'd already known that we wanted to be together.
Mm.
So then we just continued to
Mm.
walk that line. COVID happened.
Yeah.
COVID was awesome for us. We really found love as a family, because we had figured out
Yeah.
how to come together. It always been me being away playing ball,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but us being there and having our kids
Yeah.
really, really helped us. And then yeah, it's been a journey. It's
Yeah.
been an awesome journey for us.
Because I mean, COVID 2020, your kids would have been what, 2 and 1?
2 and 1,
Yeah, that'll
yeah.
bring a
So
family
like,
together or tear a family apart.
right, right, and we enjoyed it. We jumped
Yeah.
into life and jumped into Christ together, and
Mm.
ever since then, I mean, we've been able to fight off
Mm.
everything.
Mm.
Just
No.
keep on trucking.
Well, it's a great story because I don't know how much you've heard of these podcasts or know about some of your teammates' stories, but Tristan Peters met his wife as a country dance bar out in Arizona when he was playing JUCO. Ryan Stanek met his wife on Instagram. I met my wife on eHarmony. And so I mean, there are all kinds of like weird stories on how they met, but it's just so it's the baseball way, right? I mean, there's no
Right.
blueprint to this, and we don't
There
have
isn't.
nights and weekends, and this is a fantastic story. So the last question, this will be a quick one for you. I get a lot of people asking me about, hey, what's with CJ and the long hair? And I was never going to ask you, but then I saw your two sons on the field without hats on, and they're emulating daddy because their hair is already past their shoulders. So
Yeah.
what have you always had really long hair? When's the last time you got a haircut? When's the last time your boys got a haircut?
So the boys get trims every once in a while. Not too often, but they'll let you know, like, hey, it's getting a little long. I'm like, all right, let's go trim it. Um, but no, I was never allowed to have long hair as a kid. Not by my mom. That just wasn't allowed. I was
Mhm.
always clean cut. And then I got to school for at Texas, and we were not allowed to have long hair. It was everything clean shaven, clean cut. And then I don't know, I went out on a limb and I started growing out the top, and then I decided that I was going to dye it, so it was white for an off season. I don't know why. Um, so then I had to re-dye it at the end of the off season because I wasn't going to go into spring training like that. And then I decided to get sister locks, which is like almost like
Mm,
dreads.
mm,
Grew that out, and then I was in California that year. That was my first year of pro ball,
yeah,
and I couldn't find anybody to redo them. And we were out on the beach, out in the water, and they started coming out. So I
mm,
cut it all, and that was in 2016. I cut it all off, went straight buzz, and I restarted growing it out ever since then. And then I think it took about a year for me to get to the length that I had liked. And then
mm,
after that, I was like, I'm gonna let it ride. So I think 2017, I started letting it. 2016 is when I started growing it, but 2017, I
mm,
just let it go. I mean, I also came up with the Giants, so
mhm, mhm.
um, you look back at those teams back then. You had
Yeah, yeah.
Crawford,
Yep.
you had Samardzija,
Mhm.
you had
Yeah.
Michael Morris. I mean, you had guys who had this
Mhm.
long, luscious hair, and it was like, yo, that's sick. And um, I kind of just jumped on that bandwagon, and ever since
Okay.
then, I've
Yeah.
kind of stuck with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I keep the sides kind of trimmed, but
Mhm.
yeah, the long hair. And then my kids, I was just like, they have such awesome hair.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that I can cut it. There's just no way. That's where all our superpowers are.
Oh, that's what a fantastic way to end the pod. You wouldn't recognize pictures of me 20 years ago. Long hair, not down to my shoulders, but long and it kind of feather up in the back. But those days are long gone for me. So, first off, CJ, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I know it's been a long season. We're in the middle of a long streak of days playing games without days off. But thank you for sharing your stories. It's been awesome to have you as a teammate here with the Bulls this summer, and we'll see you at the ballpark later today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having
And,
me.
and happy early birthday to you, your 30th, and happy seventh birthday to your long hair.
Thank you. Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate it.
So that is it for the Durham Bulls podcast. Again, remember, if you haven't subscribed, please do on Apple, on Spotify, and you can watch this and see the luscious hair of CJ Hinojosa on our YouTube channel, Durham Bulls TV. So for CJ Hinojosa, to Toby McDuffie, and the entire crew that brings you the Durham Bulls podcast, I'm Patrick Kinas. We'll see you next week on the Durham Bulls podcast.